All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Once again, thank you for dialing into our Well Informed, Eat Well to Feel Well, Food and Your Mental Health. All lines are going to be remuted for the remainder of the presentation. We'll have a Q&A portion for the presenter at the end, where we encourage you to type out your questions into the chat box. March is Nutrition Month. It's a time to focus on how the food we eat fuels not just our bodies, but our minds. Nutrition plays a powerful role in mental health. Balanced meals with whole grains, lean proteins, healthy fats, fruits, and vegetables provide the nutrients our brains need to regulate mood, manage stress, and stay focused. Nutrients like omega-3 fatty acids, B vitamins, iron, and magnesium all support brain function and emotional well-being. When we nourish our bodies consistently, we build a strong foundation for better energy, resilience, and overall mental wellness. To guide us in understanding more about this relationship, we are joined today by Morgan Brownlee. Morgan is a therapist, coach, and emotional freedom strategist who helps high-achieving Black women break free from perfectionism, performance, and survival mode. Her own journey through emotional trauma, burnout, and the weight of being the strong friend led her to discover true healing through nutrition, exercise, herbal remedies, and mindfulness. Now, she leads individuals on a path to emotional and physical freedom through a trauma-informed, holistic approach that blends therapy, somatic healing, coaching, and holistic nutrition. Her work is not about managing emotions. It's about unlearning suppression, reconnecting with the body, and reclaiming the freedom to feel, thrive, and be whole. Thank you so much for being with us here today, and I'll now turn it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that introduction. I appreciate it. And you guys know a little bit about me. This is one of my favorite topics to talk about and just to educate on, given my own personal journey and just things that I've discovered with regard to being a mental health professional, and then also being a former bodybuilder and kind of understanding how food works, not just with the body, but then studying it more within the mind. So again, one of my favorite topics to talk about. I will probably just ask some questions to get some engagement in the chat. So you can definitely use the chat to answer questions, and of course, ask any questions, and I'll get to that at the end. So for the goals for the seminar, so we're going to learn about the connection between what we eat and how we feel. So we'll talk about the gut-brain connection and then review what the most important nutrients are for mental health. Because again, there is a direct link between the nutrients that we get and absorb and our mood. So we'll talk a bit about that. We're going to explore some strategies for incorporating more healthy foods into our diets. And I'm always curious, just kind of what people do to, support themselves in that journey. Because I think just over the past few years, we've become more and more cognizant of just eating well and, the changes in food and things like that. So talk about that and then discover ways to commit to healthy choices in the long term. And I have a strategy that I typically use with clients because I know we often have big goals, but, sometimes you just have to break them down into the one thing. And then just a brief slide on your EAP benefits. So just understanding what those benefits are, and you'll be able to see those on the screen, but I typically just kind of direct you to your HR person so that you can get more specific details as needed. So we are going to start off talking about the gut-brain connection. Now, your gut and brain communicate regularly via what's called the gut-brain axis. So with the vagus nerve, that sends the signals between the gut and the brain, and it tells the body how to behave. So just think of, what our body does and how it behaves to, food, to certain environments, even. That's that vagus nerve. And then you have the neurotransmitters, and those are the chemicals that are produced by the brain and the gut that control our feelings and emotions. So of course, serotonin, other hormones, GABA, oxytocin, things like that. And then our gut microbiome. I feel like this has been a word that has become more and more prevalent in this work as well, and understanding our gut microbiome and how that impacts, how we feel, what we eat. And that produces a short chain fatty acids that help to regulate appetite, metabolism, and then other body functions. I apologize for the noise. And the immune system. So, of course, I'm sure we're all familiar with our immune system. And the gut sends immune signals to the brain, and that controls what's essentially passed into the body and what isn't. So, of course, immune system, thinking about how if it's weakened, we're liable to get sicker, have more colds and things like that. So that's things being passed into the body, or what's controlled being passed into the body. Now, nutrition and mental health. So nutrient deficiencies or a poor diet can have a significant impact on our mental health. And so the first thing is the instability, or how that affects that is instability of stress hormones. And sometimes we may be thinking that, whatever the stress is, we may be thinking it's one thing, but it could be lack of nutrients, right? So it also contributes to inflammation in the body. Again, another thing I think that's become more prevalent over the course of the years is understanding different foods that can cause inflammation in the body. And then fluctuations in blood sugar impact our mood as well. And I know for people who may struggle with diabetes, for example, and just kind of managing that blood sugar, tend to also experience different changes in their mood. And then it just feeds harmful bacteria in the gut. So, we're liable to have gastrointestinal issues, or, gut health issues because of the harmful bacteria that comes from the nutrient deficiencies, or, of course, the poor diet. But of course, we know that we do have control over our food choices. So, of course, what we eat and what we don't eat, and then how we eat to aid in nutrient absorption. I think we talk about that a little bit, because food pairing is something that helps with that helps to aid in nutrient absorption as well. And then if you all take any type of supplements, there's certain supplements that you can't take together also, because it will kind of cancel out the other one, and it won't absorb appropriately. So that's how, the nutrients and nutrient absorption tend to work. And then there's just long-term commitment for lasting benefits. And I personally have been on this journey for a long time, and it is just that. If you guys would like to share, if you guys are also just not even necessarily on like a health journey, but a journey of just improving your lifestyle through food and nutrition, go ahead and put a thumbs up in the chat, because it really is a long-term commitment. Because there's cravings and stress eating and all of those other kind of factors that play a role into just how we eat and our food choices. And I don't think it's ever perfect in any way. And that's why I see it as kind of this lifelong and long-term thing. Even myself with cookies. I like cookies. So there's that. So we'll talk about what to eat. Now, as far as protein, with protein, it's broken down into mood enhancing neurotransmitters, and it fuels our energy levels. And then, of course, helps make and repair cells. So if there are people who are into fitness and you have protein after your workout, right? It helps with muscle repair. Also helps, fuel the energy. And one thing I noticed, and this is just kind of a sidebar, when I increased my protein, because I'm vegan, so I don't eat, meat or dairy or anything. But I was working out more recently, and I felt like I needed to just increase my protein. And I recognized that when I did that, sugar cravings actually decreased also, which I found interesting. So protein and magnesium for me just kind of seemed to curtail sugar cravings, because again, I like cookies. So I noticed that I didn't have a taste for cookies when I was kind of on that regimen. So just wanted to share that briefly. But then why is this important? Protein from food, it provides the body with the essential amino acids that it can't produce on its own. So, imagine with somebody who doesn't eat meat or dairy having to find their sources and supplements to get that protein. But that's what happens. We can't produce or store it. Um, so smart food strategy for boosting your mood. Protein-rich snacks every 3 to 4 hours. And again, just kind of making sure at each of those meals, there's some sort of protein. And what I've kind of been discovering is that I don't know if we need as much protein as people think we need. So when you are understanding your macros and things like that, it's very specific and kind of tedious to your body to know how many grams of protein and carbs and fats and stuff like that that you need. But some examples here of protein, of course, a spoonful of nut butter, which we have to be careful about because it also includes fat. And we don't want to go over whatever our fat intake is, but you have eggs, of course, yogurt, cottage cheese, which from my perspective too, I think Greek yogurt and cottage cheese, especially plain, are some of the best things that you can do. But also from a standpoint of inflammation and knowing that certain types of dairy can produce inflammation in the body. So just being mindful of that. So over here on the right side, of course, you have some other options for protein. And are there any vegans or vegetarians in the audience? I'm curious. You can put like vegan or vegetarian because I think that's a question that a lot of us will get. It's like, well, how do you get your protein? So for me, quinoa, hemp seed, soya, certain things like that can really meet that goal, that protein goal. If we eat enough of it, sometimes you just have to eat a little bit more or supplement. But these are some of the options that you have. All right, B vitamins. So what do B vitamins do for our body? Of course, they impact energy production, maintain healthy cells and tissues, and then they are the ones that this particular vitamin produces mood boosting chemicals. So when we have deficiencies in our vitamin B, that's linked to poor memory, memory function, cognitive impairment, dementia, and depression. So vitamin B is a very important nutrient that we want to make sure that we get. So, again, when you're eating whole foods, and what I'd like to say, things that grow from the ground or that you can get on the farm, you're pretty much set in how you, in how you get your vitamins and minerals, I should say. And so food strategy for B vitamins. So for these foods, they usually are considered to be unhealthy, can be nutrient rich when prepared in the right way. So, of course, baking, roasting, steaming, instead of frying. And again, it might be a review for a lot of us because I think we've learned that, those are just the healthier options. I would say if you're going to fry, use avocado oil. That's the best oil to fry with. Can be kind of pricey depending on where you get it from. I get the big thing from Costco, but avocado oil is the best oil for frying. Olive oil is the best oil for like dressings and things like that. Heating olive oil makes it rancid, and that can create inflammation. So just a little tidbit there. And then being mindful with toppings and portion size and know where the nutrients actually are in the food that we're eating. So again, whether it's protein, whether it's vitamins and minerals, just having a bit more understanding of where those things come from. So over here to the right, we have another list of how you can get particularly B vitamins. So salmon, broccoli, bananas, potatoes, avocados. Avocados can be kind of a weird one for people just because of the texture, which I completely understand. But leafy greens, another tip I think for leafy greens is just at maybe lunch and dinner, always having just a small bowl of them to go with whatever your meal is. I mean, even if you go out and grab lunch that may not be the best, having a little bit of those leafy greens, I think, is a step and a start to making sure that we're at least getting them and incorporating them into our diet, our nutrition plan. So magnesium. Magnesium impacts brain function, helps to regulate our mood, and helps to relax our muscles. Another nutrient I think that's been really prominent these days, and there's various types of magnesium as well. So depending on what the goal is, you want to make sure that you are getting the right type of magnesium. And I think magnesium oxide is the one that's not the best, but magnesium glycinate has really come on to the scene huge. And I've noticed the increase in price in magnesium glycinate as well in the stores and online and things like that, because it is becoming so popular to help people relax and sleep better. So that's one of the things that it, are some of the things that it does. And why it's important, again, shown to help improve sleep and reduce symptoms of depression as well. And I have not researched this fully, but I'm pretty confident that it helps with sugar cravings. So smart food strategy for magnesium, incorporating healthy foods you enjoy already. So nuts, popcorn, frozen veggies, you know, it's always great to keep some frozen veggies around, veggies with pasta sauce, and greens, soup, seeds, smoothies. So those types of pairings, again, food pairing is going to be something that helps to just enrich the amount of nutrients that we get. And again, over to the right, we have different options for magnesium. And of course, if you can get your spinach and, you know, different vegetables from a farmer's market, or if you know, have a favorite place that you can go. Another thing, of course, you know, organic. I say if it's vegetables, clean them well and get them and get them. Because I've followed some farmers on TikTok, and one specifically talks about it doesn't make a difference. And so I was like, huh, okay. And I think sometimes we can probably tell that there is a difference, but nonetheless, vegetable, fruit. I kind of not gave up on the organic thing. It is, I think, healthy, but it can also be a little more expensive. So just my 2 cents. Now, antioxidants, again, something I think we are very familiar with, helping to neutralize free radicals, prepare our cells and, or excuse me, repair our DNA and cells, and keep us from getting inflammation, thus getting sick. So strategies for that, again, just kind of understanding where the antioxidants are. So fruits and veggies, and they can be frozen, they can be fresh. I really enjoy smoothies. So the mixture of like the berry smoothie, like strawberry, blueberries, kind of what I like and how I get it. But then you also have beans, fish, veggies, of course, protein, salads. I think the fresh lettuce tastes better than the bagged ones, but again, short on time, we take shortcuts as much as we can, as long as it's still, you know, healthy. So again, to the right, have some other examples or alternatives, excuse me, of how to get antioxidants. So these are all of the options, all of the choices. And yeah, you know, again, just kind of figuring out ways to incorporate it into your day to day. Oh, it said spices, but I meant to like parse that out. And then healthy fats. So the healthy fats actually help to absorb the vitamins. And so, and then supply energy to the brain and to the body, and again, support brain function. And with the rise of dementia and, Alzheimer's, and it being linked to, some of these or nutrient deficiencies, I think it's important that we do know how that contributes. So, um, having consumption of polyunsaturated fatty acids decreases symptoms of depression and anxiety as well. So, you know, when we say mind and body, it really is, a whole person approach, I think, to how we eat, what we eat, and how that affects our mental health. So, being smart with substitutions that optimize the good fats and minimize the bad fats. And so, again, avocados, olive oil for butter. So, like swapping that out, Greek yogurt for mayo, and I would even say sour cream, kind of depending on the brand. I think the brand matters. Salmon, of course, much more rich in omega-3s. Ground turkey for beef. And then, of course, again, olive oil specifically, and then vinegar for any type of dressing base that you have. So again, for cooking purposes, avocado oil is a great oil. And once again, to the right, various types of healthy fats for you all to consume. I started making chia seed pudding a couple weeks ago, and I was pretty proud of myself because it turned out pretty well. I have an almond milk maker, and I put a little bit of coconut cream in it, and it actually turned out pretty good. Sat it in there overnight. So getting creative, kind of doing some different things, and using different ingredients in terms of how we are getting our healthy fats. And then what to eat. So optimizing our gut health. So the wrong mix of microbes, again, can cause inflammation, which is a contributor to a lot of the health problems that people tend to experience. And it also has been linked to depression and anxiety and other mental health issues. Fermented and high fiber foods also have a positive impact on our gut health. So, things like sauerkraut, even if there's people who enjoy pickling their own vegetables, like onions or carrots, even things like that, is a good idea and helps to balance gut health as well. And then for optimizing gut health, our smart food strategy, avoiding boredom and diversifying your gut microbiome by experimenting with new types of foods. So here's another list of things to try. And kefir, I've never tried kefir. There is a vegan brand of Greek yogurt that I like from Forager. And then you have kimchi, love a good miso soup, and sourdough. Particularly if you like to eat bread or want to eat bread, sourdough bread it tends to be the best bread, especially if you can get it fresh or make it fresh. It's much better than, of course, store-bought and things like that for gut health. And then, of course, leeks, kombucha and tempeh. Now, what not to eat? So foods we want to avoid, and I think we all are familiar with this and understand what that is, of ultra processed foods, specifically because again, they are a major contributor to causing inflammation in the body that can then result in issues with mental health. Same with refined sugars, cause chemical imbalances in the brain, and again, impacts how we feel and how we respond to stress. So something we want to keep in mind with refined sugars. And I usually get a question of fruit, and of course, fruit being high in sugar content, but it's really important to make that distinction between refined versus natural. So with that, just understanding that fruits are great. Of course, if you have diabetes or any other things like that, you want to make sure that you stay within the confines of what you can have. but there's definitely a difference in terms of how your body processes it. And then dietary changes that limit consumption have been shown to have a beneficial impact on our well-being. So again, I think it's a good idea to also just kind of know how your body responds to certain foods. So, if you're bloating or if you're getting a headache, even if maybe you feel kind of wired or have brain fog, making that connection and understanding how that impacts your body, I think is also really helpful in just understanding what foods are going to work well for you and what foods aren't. That is one of the key takeaways for myself. Again, when I started this journey some years ago, I just kind of went cold turkey and went raw vegan for 30 days. I could not do that again. But incorporating certain foods back into my diet really showed me like, oh yeah, this I can't eat this, like even pasta, like stuff like potato chips and things like that. So having that understanding is a great strategy as well in learning what to eat and how to eat. And then tricking your sweet tooth to curb cravings. You want to try frozen grapes, cherries, or even yogurt. Although, again, if it's yogurt, I would say plain yogurt with maybe some fresh fruit, a teaspoon of cinnamon in your coffee or oatmeal, and then swapping milk chocolate for dark, and fermented foods also. I have a sweet treat that I'm going to share with you guys that I think is great. You guys can let me know in the chat if you've tried it. I like to, especially if I have a sweet tooth, because again, that's just kind of my thing. But I like to have dates. So I'll have a date, I'll take the pit out. I'm allergic to peanut butter now. I didn't used to be, so I can't use peanut butter anymore. But if you're not, you can do peanut butter or almond butter. And then I have some vegan chocolate that I melt just a little bit. And then I dip it kind of in the chocolate, put it in the refrigerator for about 10 minutes, and it's one of the most amazing, one of the most amazing and healthier things that that I did. And dates have so many nutrients in them, including ones that sometimes I don't even think we think about, like copper and psyllium, I think is how you say it. And of course, and it has a lot of magnesium. They have a lot of magnesium as well. So that's just a little tip and tidbit. Some people say it tastes like Reese's. I just say it tastes good because it's sweet and it's healthier. So again, how you eat also matters. So slowing down and savoring your food, of course, taking small bites and staying hydrated throughout the day. Not necessarily when we eat, because sometimes even if it's drinking water, like right after we eat or as we're eating, that can also disrupt the gut microbiome or make us feel bloated. So just being mindful of that as well. And then limiting distractions, tension, and stress, because again, we don't want the gut microbiome to be impacted in any way. And did you know that chewing allows your body to extract the greatest possible amount of nutrients from your food? So that's why it's always been important to chew our food 32 times, because we want to make sure that we're getting all of the nutrients that, our meals have to offer. So that's another little tip or tidbit of where the 32 times come from. It's really about getting the nutrients out of your food. And then committing in the long term. So again, tracking what you eat and how you feel. And I know this can be hit or miss. Tracking specifically can be hit or miss for people. I think we start out well and then kind of get into a groove and may not need to do it as much, but it's definitely something to try, especially again, if you're monitoring how certain foods make you feel and just what you're consuming as far as those vitamins and minerals and macros as well. And then small steps and substitutions make a difference. So what I mentioned earlier, just in terms of a strategy that I use with clients, is not trying to do a complete overhaul of your kitchen or even of your meals. It's just taking one meal that you want to focus on, that you want to get better at, And just understanding what your day looks like as well, because maybe in the morning it's so quick, you got to grab something, and maybe the morning time is not the healthiest thing, or maybe for lunch is not the healthiest thing. But just picking which meal you want to try to work on and make that the healthier meal, or make that the meal that you use substitutions for. So breaking it down by meal tends to work well, because you just that's an accomplishment. It's a small task, but it's an accomplishment that you can make throughout the day. But you're also not stressed throughout the rest of the day about, what you're eating, or if you're not eating well. And then making it convenient and easy to implement. Meal prepping is always a great idea, even if you just do it for a couple of days. As a former fitness competitor and bodybuilder, that was just kind of the thing we had to do, but we also had to eat the same thing every day. But it did make things easier. So carving out some time, and again, incorporating things that you already have, or things that you already like, that may be easy to implement into your strategy. And then remembering this mantra: seafood, greens, nuts, beans, and a little dark chocolate. So again, just something to remember and keep you on track as a bit of a mantra. And the dark chocolate piece, I think the vegan chocolate I use is dark chocolate, but I don't even know. All right. Now, health precautions. This is something important too, that, we just have to think about as we're talking about nutrition and mental health. Everyone has different nutritional needs. So again, kind of going back to what I was saying earlier, based on your specific body type, if you're more sedentary or more active, your weight, all those things contribute to what your actual macronutrients will look like. And, just how food responds to your body specifically. So it's not really a one size fit all. I think we kind of have a general overview and idea, and things, and how to try and where to start. But to get that specific, it's, like I said earlier, it can be kind of tedious, but it's necessary, especially if you have certain dietary goals, or body goals even, that can be important. But then being cautious with supplements, again, like I mentioned earlier, some supplements, and I meant to have my list with me and I forgot, so I apologize, but certain supplements don't pair well with the other ones, because they're not actually absorbing like you think that they would, or think that they should. So you could be taking supplements and still not getting those nutrients, because they might be paired incorrectly. And then diet alone, of course, is not a treatment plan for mental health disorders, but it's a very, I would say, significant factor. But always consult with your doctor, of course, and a mental health professional before starting any supplement or meal plan or treatment regimen, just so you can have a bit more knowledge. Again, for me, yes, I can. And yeah, so again, it's very just kind of what works for your body. And as you go on this process, and like I said earlier, kind of start paying attention to how your body responds to the foods that you eat. Um, that body awareness is a really big key, and that's whether it's nutrition, and even in mental health, just some environments that we go into, um, our body just responds, and being aware of that and having that awareness is so helpful, because it helps to progress treatment, so to speak, in a way that I don't think people really tend to think about. So again, there's no one size fits all approach. A lot of the things that I did earlier on were just kind of trial and error, as I was researching how to do certain things. And again, diet is one of several factors that impact your mental wellness. So again, knowing your allies, talking to your physicians, your therapists, your nutritionist even, or dietitian, and then of course your EAP, because there may be resources there as well. Let's see. I was going to share something and I don't remember, but maybe I'll remember in a second. All right. So here's the last slide. Excuse me. The benefits of your EAP. So these are all of the benefits that you have available to you. For any more specific questions about them, again, reach out to your HR professional. And that is going to be the end of the presentation. Thank you guys very much for listening and having me. And are there any questions or anything in the chat? How do I even get to that?
Yeah, so thank you so much for, this information was just amazing. And actually, as it relates to kind of the supplement list that you had mentioned, one of our attendees was wondering if you could share that list of supplements with us. If you want to email it to the wellness team, we can go ahead and distribute that out to folks.
Okay.
But I also want to make sure that this moment is open to anybody else who might have any questions, comments, or concerns. You can go ahead and use this time to put that in the chat, and we can address whatever we can.
Okay. So questions from earlier, any vegan or vegetarians or anybody who's on this kind of wellness journey who has their own tricks and tips that maybe you've discovered as you are going through your process?
I can share actually. Part of the things that I used to do was I'm a very, if there's food out, I'm going to eat it type of person. So part of what my wife and I started doing was putting the food away after we've served our plates. So just kind of eating enough, putting enough on our plates for the meal and not leaving it on the stove. Because if it's on the stove, I'll walk by with a fork and just start picking out of it.
Just picking, yep.
Yep. And also too, what I used to tell some of my patients was that you can use a smaller plate. We have a tendency to fill up our plate or
Yep.
our bowl to the brim, because if we see empty space, we're kind of thinking, I'm not getting enough
Yep.
in this
I can
meal.
put that there.
So definitely something that I would recommend is using a smaller plate. That's helped me out as well, because I also have a sweet tooth. Not all the time, but when it hits like a truck, let me tell you.
Yep. Yep, I definitely can relate to that for sure. That's the one thing. But another, I guess, kind of tip or trick is kind of having a set day or time that I have a sweet treat. So I'm looking forward to it. So again, the cookies that I like that are right up the road here, I'll either get on like a Friday or a Saturday. Not both days, but and the cookies are pretty big, so I actually may cut them in half and eat first half on Friday and the second half on Saturday. But that's just kind of how I do it. So, during the week I'm focused. But I did just remember what I was going to share when we were talking about one of the other slides. There's a book that kind of helped me start to understand food and its connection to mental health. And it's called This Is Your Brain on Food. And it's by a nutritional psychiatrist called Dr. Uma Naidoo, Naidoo, I believe. And it was very fascinating how she started to help her clients who had, been diagnosed with mental health disorders really have the best regimen to treat them. So it was a really eye-opening book. And I think she also wrote another one called, I think it was like Calming Your Anxiety or something like that. And that one was specifically focused on anxiety. The other one was kind of highlighted some various mental health issues like PTSD, anxiety, depression, I think even insomnia and ADHD. And then in the back of the book, she actually gives you some meal plan ideas to make sure that you're getting those nutrients. So kind of like I had them on the slides here. She has that list in the book, and then, like I said, meal ideas and recipes to make some of those things or to ensure that we're getting those nutrients. So those two books, This Is Your Brain on Food specifically, was really great and eye-opening and starting this whole process for me.
And those any book recommendations are always great because we have a lot of sometimes we find lulls in our day and just kind of filling our head with knowledge is incredibly important.
Yeah.
And in the topic of nutrition and how to eat, Erin in the chat mentioned that she used a nutritionist that was in network through our CTA insurance.
Nice.
Helped her tremendously, and especially helped her figuring out her macros that are going to be working out for her to lose weight and
Yep.
get what she needed. So she really wanted to highlight that in our chat. So definitely make sure that you are all taking advantage of your benefits, talking with your primary care provider and seeing what is in network and what you can use. Because
Mhm.
sometimes, having the will to do something is great, but also we need that little push from time to time or that support network, whether that's through a licensed professional or that's through just some camaraderie that we find in our day to day, either through family, friends, or even neighbors.
Yep.
It doesn't look like we have any more questions in the chat. So I just want
Okay.
to thank you once again for this amazing presentation.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
If anybody has any questions, please feel free to reach out to the wellness team, wellness@transitchicago.com. We have another message here in the chat. It says, I've had, this is from Ms. Winford. I've had the most success with losing weight and maintaining healthy weight by meal prepping. It does take time, but well worth it. I'm a snacker and make sure to keep plenty of healthy snack options. Additionally, it helps with portion sizes, as mentioned by Dakota. That's me.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that meal prepping really is a lifesaver. And it like on the front end, it's a lot of time, but as you're like breezing through the week and you're just having to grab and go and heat up after that, or if it's a cold dish, it really does on the back end, I think, save a lot of time, but also keeps you on track. So I definitely agree with that.
And for meal prepping, if you can, try to diversify it a little bit. I know that when I first tried to meal prep, I was like, well, I made myself enough chicken and rice for the entire week. And then by day 3, I was sick of it and gave up very quickly. So definitely, know
Yeah.
yourself, know what your limitations are. And if you know what those are and what your pitfalls are, Morgan, you mentioned those cookies you like, right? You choose a day, kind of setting yourself up for success within your own parameters. So definitely look inward on that.
Yeah.
That being said, though, this will now conclude our presentation. Once again, please feel free to reach out to Wellness with any other questions, comments, or concerns. Thank you all for joining us today, and we hope you have a wonderful rest of your day and rest of your week.
Thank you guys so much. Have a great one.
Everybody take care.